Hello, Love Bay family. Uh, I'm just from ranting about the cold in this country. I can't stand it. I need to be somewhere where there's sunshine. I need the sun. It's only November and already I'm ready to give up and go back to Africa. So welcome to Mental Health Hour. My name is Dr. Tapo. It's always great to be here to spend this time talking about our mental health. Last week, we started talking about seasonal affective disorder, and we focused on seasonal affective disorder in cold climates or during the cold seasons like this one. Yesterday, I was in a meeting with some people, and they were saying, as a kind of check in on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? I was at 5. And the only reason I was at 5 is it is cold, it is gray. I need the sun. I am one of those people, I need the sun. As soon as the weather starts changing, it's getting dark early. I actually feel it in my very core. I am a person that needs the sun. I need the heat. It does good things for my spirit and my soul. And being in a country where it's cold and gray for 6 months is challenging, like very, very challenging. This is usually around the time when I start thinking about, ooh, maybe I can look for a job in Jamaica. So if you're listening from Jamaica and you're looking for a therapist, buy me a ticket. I will come and take care of you. So, Mental Health Hour is for educational and information only. This is informational, this is educational. It does not replace care by your practitioner, whether it's a physician, a therapist, a psychiatrist, clinical counselor, maybe it's your qualified counselor from your church. I am here to educate and to give information so that you can make the best and right decisions for yourselves, for your loved ones, for your children. So, like I said, last week we started talking about seasonal affective disorder, and it is a very, very real thing. It's not simply winter blues, like we say, like we minimize how bad it can get when we simply say winter blues. Some of the highest rates of suicide are actually connected to their seasons. So Finland is one country where suicide rates are pretty high for a nation that size. And one of the reasons that researchers and healthcare, I guess, researchers have determined it is because of the seasons, the weather, the gray, cold, damp weather, that it does something to us human beings. So even if you're born on this side of the world, you're born in that climate, it does not mean it won't impact you. You can be here 10 generations in, but it does impact people. It's not so much all because you were born in the Caribbean or in Africa or South America, Asia, whatever, and then you move to Canada or to Finland and now you feel this thing. I was just talking to a friend of mine. She's been in Canada for 3 years from Nigeria, and she was like, I love the winter. I said to her, give it time. You just arrived. Give it time. It does impact you after a while. It does impact you. And so for me, I've actually been noticing this over time, that as soon as the weather starts changing, yeah, something inside of me starts to shrivel up and die, right? But I don't have it as bad as other people. So today we're focusing on seasonal affective disorder, in the hotter climates, in the hotter seasons, and they call it summer sad, right? Summer seasonal affective disorder. Because, like I said last week, and I will be emphasizing this week, it's not just when the weather is cold and damp. Even when the weather is hot and humid, even when the weather is hot and dry, seasonal affective disorder really is at the core of it your body's reaction to the season, to the prevailing weather, right? It can be because of lots and lots of rain. It can be because there has been no rain. One of my favorite things is rain. Yeah, I like rain. I like the way it smells, and it brings me back happy memories about my childhood. But I lived for a while in Ireland, and it rains quite a bit in Ireland. And in that space, I experienced rain differently. It wasn't so joyous, such a good memory for me. So, seasonal affective disorder is really how your body, your central nervous system, your emotions, all of you is responding, reacting, adjusting to the season. And I spoke last week that our bodies are part of the rhythm, the ecosystem, right? We have what we call the circadian rhythm. And this is what causes us to get sleepy at night. Morning comes, we wake up. Even without an alarm clock, most of us will wake up naturally. I know for me, it doesn't matter if I have an alarm clock or not. I'm awake. If I really try and push it, and I'll be asleep, but I can feel myself pushing it. Still, I'm awake by 6:30, 7 latest. And it's not even that I was still sleeping. My eyes were still closed, but I've been awake for a while. My body naturally around 6 a.m., my body starts to wake up. It can be whether I'm in Europe, whether I'm in Africa, whether I'm here in Canada, anywhere in the world. I've noticed that for me, it doesn't change. If I go to bed at 3 a.m., my body will still wake up at about the same time. And then I'll have to find time to sleep later during the day. But my body is set up that way. And most of us, if we're healthy and we've been practicing good sleep hygiene, our bodies are like that. And it's called our circadian rhythm. So when it starts to get dark outside, our bodies start to produce more melatonin, right? Which is the hormone that helps us feel drowsy, helps us sleep. So when people have sleep problems, sometimes the doctor, and so here in Canada, you can get it over the counter. You can go to Costco and buy a whole box of melatonin supplements. And that's supposed to help us fall asleep, help our body start to relax. So when it's starting to get dark outside, your body reads that because we are part of the ecosystem. We're not divorced or separated from nature around us, right? We're not taking care of it, which we should, because right now we're talking about how climate change and all of that is impacting the bees and animals. And trust me, it's impacting us as well on a health level, right? So that's how our bodies function. So when seasons change, sometimes our bodies have a hard time adjusting to those changes. Right now, and I said this last week as well, because it's dark outside and it's been dark outside for maybe almost an hour at this point, and it's only 6 p.m. I can already feel myself needing to yawn, needing to curl up and sleep because my body is responding to the season. Whereas in the summer, at about this time, I'm still wide awake and all of that. And that's the thing. Like I wake up at the same time every day, but I have a hard time sleeping, especially in the summer. So for me, this season, one good thing about it is I fall asleep a lot easier because my body has been producing melatonin a lot longer. Whereas in the summer, because it can be bright until 10 o'clock or even past 10, it takes longer for my body to produce that melatonin that helps us sleep. Okay, so if you have questions, if you have comments, please get in touch. We love to get your phone calls, your texts, your emails. You can email infolovebay@gmail.com, infolovebay@gmail.com, or text 437-778-3299, 437-778-3299. Okay, so what about in the summer? Why do people get seasonal affective disorder in the summer? It's nice and bright. If you're like me, it's like the highlight of any year for me, honestly, is summer. Like I love Christmas, but I would really, really love Christmas in the summer. It would be the best, which was back home, right? So, okay, summer sadness, right? Again, when we say winter blues or summer sadness, it does seem to minimize it, but it is actually a very serious and challenging mental health disorder. Seasonal affective disorder is a real disorder. We should not simply brush it aside, simply say, oh, it's just a season, it'll pass, and in a few months I'll be okay. Because the longer you leave it unaddressed, the more it's going to impact your life. And sometimes, even when the season changes, like let's say if we're talking about seasonal affective disorder in the winter, even when it becomes spring and summer, if you were not taking care of yourself, getting the right treatment, doing what you need to do to be well, it can be difficult even when that season passes to get better because you didn't pay attention to it, you didn't address it before it got too bad. If you recall what I was saying last week is just like stress, just like anxiety, just like other forms of depression, the longer you live it, the more it impacts you, even on a physiological or physical level. You start to get sick, like physically, those back pains, stomach pains, the chronic headaches, always feeling tired, your digestion is off, you eat something, anything almost, you're in the washroom, in the toilet with the runs and stuff. And we tend to not see the connection between our mental health and our physical health, or we dismiss both until they get to a point where it's really impacting your life and you can't, function as you normally would. Since the weather started turning, I can tell you, like with my team at work, we're getting more and more off sick days, people not coming in, people coming in late, people low energy because of the season, right? So, signs and symptoms of seasonal affective disorder in the summer. And I need you to check how many of these are the same symptoms we talked about last week, or when we're talking about anxiety, when we're talking about stress, when we're talking about depression? You'll find that a lot of them are the same. Insomnia, so trouble sleeping, you cannot sleep. This happens with both winter seasonal affective disorder as well as summer affective disorder, right? So, insomnia, those feelings of restlessness, irritability, you're easily angered, annoyed, you're just not yourself, lack of appetite, right? Or you're eating too much, uh, headaches, migraines. We talked about having a low motivation, lack of motivation. You don't feel like going to work. You don't feel like cleaning your house. You don't feel like doing your laundry. You don't feel like doing much of anything. And we know that the longer this happens, the worse these things get, because you can call in sick 5 times. By the time you get to 10, your employer is now thinking like this person doesn't want this job, and you could lose your employment. This happens whether it's summer, whether it's winter. The point is, it is seasonal affective disorder. And people can experience it in hot climates, they can experience it in cold climates. It's really the body's inability to adjust to the season, right? Your body just cannot function like it would want to. But it's not just your body, it's your mind as well, your emotions as well. So that is seasonal affective disorder. Okay, so how does this work or happen in the summer? Um, so for me, summer is joy. Summer is I'm so like, and here I remember my first summer in Canada. I was just shocked at how hot it was. I spent a lot of time in cold water in the bathtub because it was just so hot, but I was still happy. I come from Zimbabwe. We don't have humidity like they have humidity in Canada. People think Canada is very cold. I'm telling you, Canada also gets very hot. And the last few years, it has been so hot. We've had bushfires. The smoke could be seen in Europe. That's how hot it gets in Canada. So we have both extremes of really hot and really cold. And our summers are so hot. And some people experience seasonal affective disorder in the summer, where some of us are skipping in meadows. We are so happy. Look how hot it is. Oh my goodness, where's my sunscreen? Other people just cannot function because it is too hot. A friend of mine mentioned recently, she's from church, and her husband is going to, they're going to Nicaragua on a mission. And I asked her, like, hey, why aren't you going? Like, if it was me, like, are you kidding me? It's winter right now, and they're saying who wants to go to South America where it's nice and hot. And she said, like, I can't function in the heat. I just can't. Like, I completely shut down. So it's not just about you feel hot, you completely shut down because it's too hot, too humid, and for long periods of time. We're talking months at a time, the same way we're talking winter here, we are talking 4 to 5 months. It can be 4 to 5 months of very high temperatures, right? And in those climates, it can be 12 months. Every day of the year is just hot. And then there's dry hot, there's humid hot. I like when the few times I've been back to Africa and it's like so hot, and of course I'm sitting where there's AC. Like I'm not crazy, but the fact that if I step out of the AC just 2 meters, I'm in this hot, humid, like I'm in a sauna, and it's good for my skin. Like my skin actually loves the humidity, but some people just cannot function in that heat, in that humidity. They get depressed. Their minds start to shut down. Their bodies start to react negatively. This is seasonal affective disorder. Okay. So, this type of depression, right? So we have the winter blues, so to speak. We have summertime blues. We have winter sad. We have summer sad, right? So, like I said, it's about how your body is reacting, your circadian rhythm. So when it's too hot, some people have underlying health issues that they might not even be aware of. So your body has to work extra hard in that heat and in that humidity. And your body working extra hard that way can cause chronic fatigue, other health issues. And we've talked about this even when we're talking about depression, about stress, that it can start off as a mental health issue. But because you've let it go for so long, it starts being a physical issue. It might be that your hormones, certain hormones in the body, are not functioning well. It might be that your organs are forced to overcompensate for something, but it really does start to impact your physical health. So it's not just about your mental health, it's also about your physical health. So the sun. So we talked about melatonin, which is a hormone that when it starts to get dark and it's time for you to start to think about bedtime and resting and relaxing and chilling and all that, your body starts to produce this melatonin and your body naturally starts to do what it needs to do to relax and fall asleep. When it's sunshine, the hormone is serotonin. It's called serotonin. So we have melatonin, which helps us relax and chill and fall asleep. We have serotonin that is like, it gives us that energetic, happy, great mood feeling. So sunshine regulates our serotonin levels. Darkness regulates our melatonin levels. So you see how, like, our bodies have a lot to do with the seasons and the sunshine. And it's not just vitamin D on the surface level, it's our hormone levels. They need the sun. They need the dusk or the dark. They need all of these things. And that's what I mean when I say we're part of the ecosystem. Our bodies function in rhythm with the rest of nature around us. So when morning comes, it's getting sunny outside, our serotonin levels increase. When it's dusk and it's getting dark outside, it's our melatonin levels that increase. And these things have to work in good balance for us to be healthy. With SAD, that is not what is going on, right? So with SAD, it might be that the serotonin levels are too low or the melatonin levels are too low. It might be that the melatonin levels are too high or too low. The point is, the hormones are not what they should be, and it impacts our mental health and eventually our physical health, or the other way around. Okay? It's all connected. You cannot divorce your mental health from your physical health. Those two work hand in hand. So, if your serotonin levels are not what they should be, you can actually lack energy, motivation, and you'd think, oh, that should mean I should be sleeping all the time. Not necessarily. It's not automatically if you have low serotonin, you sleep all the time. That's not how it works. Because something is out of balance, everything stops working the way it should, right? So when you go to the doctor, and this is why I keep saying, don't self-diagnose. Mental health hour, we look at symptoms, we get information and all of that, and that is not so you can say, oh, okay, so that's what's wrong with me, and leave it at that. Go get the help you need. Go to the doctor. Why? They can test those hormone levels. They can see what else is wrong and they can help you correct that. And it might be through medication, but it also might be through lifestyle changes. Not everything needs you to pop a pill. Sometimes it's okay, you need to exercise more, you need to sleep more, you need to eat certain foods, you need to make these adjustments. So sometimes some of these issues are environmental, they're lifestyle issues, and that if we just make some of those changes, it can actually make a difference. Something as simple as how much water are you drinking per day? And I'm guilty of that. I am so bad at drinking water. I am so bad at drinking water. If I don't have a bottle of water next to me, and sometimes even when I do, I will forget to drink water the whole day until I just feel like I'm dying of thirst, and then I realize, oh my goodness, I haven't had a drop of water in 8, 10 hours, and that's not healthy, right? So sometimes it's about those lifestyle changes. So going to the doctor is not that you will immediately go on medication and you have this. No, sometimes it's just give me a general physical. I want to know that everything is functioning like it should. If it's not, what can I do differently? Cut back on chocolate, cut back on ice cream, cut back on alcohol, stop with the drugs. Lifestyle changes, right? So some of those changes we need to make. Our physicians can help us do that. So, seasonal affective disorder, most obvious signs of it are irritability, funny enough, because everybody else around you is happy and you're the crankiest crank ever. And you yourself, you're not like quite sure, why am I so cranky? I should be happy. Look, the sun is shining, the birds are singing. Why am I so cranky? Why am I so frustrated? Why have I no energy, no motivation? You might find you're isolating where other people are outside and you're just cannot be bothered about anything. So when you go to the doctor, like I said, they're testing your hormone levels. They're looking at other deficiencies or inefficiencies in your system, and they're helping you correct that. So in the summer, you feel drained by the heat. It's like that heat is sucking the life out of you. Instead of giving you energy, it's doing the opposite. And then when it starts to cool down, maybe you might find, oh, now I'm feeling a little more energetic. Now I want to do things. Now I can focus and concentrate more because the weather has changed. So high heat or extreme heat, or it might be the humidity, you just feel drained. You can't do anything. You can't do anything. It feels like it takes a lot more energy to do small tasks, right? And remember, even when we're talking about winter, these are some of the same symptoms that we were talking about. You might feel absolutely no motivation to do anything. You're isolating. People are calling you, hey, let's go do this, let's go do that. There's a barbecue, or we're going to the beach, we're doing this, and you just cannot be bothered. It might be seasonal affective disorder. You might find, like going back to the insomnia, right? You might find you want to sleep a lot more during the day than at night. Why? Because it's really hot in the day, and then at night things kind of cool down a little. Your body feels like, oh, okay, I can function in these slightly cooler temperatures. So summer sad can be um, can cause changes in your daily routine, where you find it easier to sleep during the day than at night. So obviously something's wrong here. Your hormone levels are all over the place. Um, and some of it is social as well, right? And this is where the anxiety comes in. This is where the anxiety comes in because there's that expectation, especially like here in Canada, because we come from like these very cold icy months, and then it's spring, summer, and everybody, there's almost a social expectation that you should be happy, you should be out, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And so you actually start to feel anxious about being out, and about socializing and all of that, because you are just not up to it. But there's that pressure, there's that expectation. And that's where some of that social anxiety starts to come in play. You're finding it hard, like even to maintain your appearance. Same thing we talked about last time when we're talking about winter affective disorder. So you're finding it a lot more challenging, like to shower, which would think if it's hot and it's causing me to sweat, I'm going to be spending more time in the shower, but actually the opposite happens. You're sweating a lot more. So you might start to feel anxious about body odor and stuff like that, right? So these might seem like little silly things, but what you need to understand is they actually impact people's functioning. And this is the stigma that we talk about all the time with mental health, because it's almost like people expect the only acceptable mental health issue is absolute psychosis like schizophrenia or something like that. But even that, but when you're depressed, when you have anxiety, people tend to brush it off, to dismiss it, to minimize it. So when you're feeling these things and you're genuinely struggling, it's a lot more difficult to get help. It's a lot more difficult to get understanding because people don't have time for it. And this is why I always say, like, don't be that person talking about my anxiety, my depression, and you're only doing that to seek attention, because these are real and genuine challenges in life. Like, people actually suffer. I have seen it. I have seen people who are absolutely at the end of their rope, like absolutely the only thing they can think of is ending their life because of depression, anxiety, stress. But we tend to minimize and dismiss these things, right? So you might say, Lord, it's ridiculous. How can someone, like, it's just body odor. People smell. It's being human, it's being alive. We sweat, we smell. But if somebody is so uncomfortable that it prevents them from having an active social life, then it's not something so easily dismissed. And remember, they're already struggling with low energy. They're already struggling with a lot of negative thoughts. They're already struggling with like a lack of motivation, restlessness. They're not sleeping well, and all of that. All of these things, they add up, right? They compound into this unmanageable state. And that's the thing about mental health. And so we really shouldn't be so quick to criticize, dismiss, ridicule people when they're struggling with mental health. Like, genuinely, do not do that. And then for those of you who are attention seekers who like to claim every disease in the book, please don't. It just makes it a lot more challenging for people who are genuinely struggling, right? So it might seem silly, or it might seem like a small thing, like you have social anxiety because you're sweating. Like I went to school with one And she was such a beautiful, wonderful, lovely, lovely person. But she used to sweat so much that if she touched like her book, it would be wet. And she was sweating all the time. Like her handprint from sweat, if you shake her hand, you actually can feel on her hand. So what more the rest of her body? And so it was a very real condition for her. And so these things can be, they can cause significant social, emotional challenges. So when we talk about stigma, this is what we're talking about. When people get to a point where they feel so guilty, so ashamed, so minimized and ridiculed because of what they're suffering, in the end, they're not seeking help. They're not confiding in anyone. And when we were talking, and we talked at length about suicide and suicidal ideation, and why sometimes and I remember someone sent in a text and said, um, their friend is always laughing and smiling and all of that. So they were surprised to find out the friend is actually quite depressed and attempted suicide. And the reason why people smile and do all that is because of the stigma. I was saying yesterday in a conversation with some colleagues, and we were all saying to 10 how we're feeling. One of the people on in that meeting, it was a Zoom call, said, "You know what? The honest truth is, I'm less than five, but I've been smiling like I'm an eight." So, outward appearance, anyone around them might be thinking, oh, wow, this person's having a great day. But inside, maybe they're just a three or two, or maybe they've actually just zero and are thinking like life is no longer worth it. But on the outside, we're seeing them smile, we're seeing them happy. It's like when we see some of these celebrities, why they're rich, they're well known, they're experts in their fields and all of that. I remember, I think it was sometime last year. Um, I think she was a pageant queen. She had a master's in something. She was doing very, very well, an American black woman, and she died by suicide. We used to know the guy, what was his name? He used to dance on the Ellen DeGeneres show. I mean, who was happier than that guy? I can't remember his name, but he died by suicide. There's so many examples of people that have died by suicide that everybody around them is saying like, I don't get it. They seemed okay, they seemed happy. And stigma is one of the main reasons why this happens. People just feel ashamed, they feel ridiculed, they feel guilty, they feel they can't trust anyone to really understand what is going on with them. So, whether it's anxiety, whether it's stress, depression, seasonal affective disorder, please get the help that you need. The thing about going to professionals like physicians and therapists and all of that, it's their job to listen. And I know like one of the things, my organization does quite a lot of research around mental health. And one of the things that we hear quite a lot from women generally, but especially Black women, is how they're often dismissed when they go to see the doctor. Their symptoms are minimized, they're dismissed, they're ridiculed, they're accused of things. And it's really sad that these things happen, especially in spaces where you are going to seek help. But I really want to say, if that has happened to you, Advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself. I had to do that after several years of a very, very difficult condition. And I'd seen, I don't know how many specialists, done tests. I put my foot down and I said, like, no, I cannot live like this anymore. I sat in my doctor's office and I said, you have to do something because I can't live like this anymore. Do something. And I looked them in the face and I said this. And within 2 months, I had a surgery booked. Now, if you live in Canada, you know they can put you on a waiting list for 5 years. This happened to my mom as well. And she had to put her foot down and advocate for herself. It's unfortunate that we need to do that, but we do. Even for your mental health, you can be in a psychiatrist's office talking about your mental health and they'll act like you're stupid, you're crazy. I've heard these stories. If that physician won't listen to you, ask for someone who will. Your health is your responsibility. This is the truth. You cannot blame your physician. They're crappy. They're a crappy physician. Okay, but you need to advocate for yourself. And if you see that they're not doing their job or they're not respecting you as the patient, find somebody else. But also let them know I'm finding somebody else because you have treated me this way. Give them that feedback and stand up with your dignity and go and ask for a different practitioner. And when they ask you, why do you need somebody else? Tell them the truth. That doctor ridiculed me. They didn't listen to me. They treated me this way. And I am genuinely sick and I need help. For those of you who pay out of pocket here in Canada, because it's covered under our health care, I guess physicians don't really care. They can treat you whatever way they want and still get paid. But some of you are living in spaces where you actually have to pay out of pocket. So do not let anyone minimize what you're going through. You left your home to go and get help. Make sure you get that help. Make sure you get that help. And don't be the first to minimize your suffering. You know, sometimes I have clients in therapy and they'll say things like, oh, but I shouldn't complain because there are people worse off than me. Absolutely. Absolutely. There will always be someone who's suffering more than you, who's hungrier than you, who is shorter than you, who is taller than you, who is fatter, skinnier, prettier, uglier, whatever. There will always be someone who is 1 level, 2 level, 10 levels above whatever it is. But don't minimize what you are going through or what you are suffering. Because that thing, and when my clients say that to me, I tell them, like, I don't want to hear that. I don't care if the person next door has 1 foot and you have two. If your 2 feet hurt, they hurt. You don't say, yes, my feet hurt, but the guy next door only has 1 foot, so I'm not even going to complain. I'm not saying complain, I'm saying seek help. Get help, get better. Don't minimize. It's not a competition. Don't compare your suffering to the next person because there will always be someone who's gone through worse than you. But that doesn't mean what you are going through isn't bad. It is. So get the help that you need, get the support that you need, take care of yourself. We always bring up self care. And one of the biggest things you can do for yourself, if you're talking about self care, is going to the physician. Even if you feel well, Go for a general checkup. Let them check you out. And the doctor will tell you, oh, you're in perfect health. And you say, thank you, Jesus, I'm in perfect health. And you know. But they may also tell you there's something wrong, and thank goodness you came in and we caught it early so we can address it quickly before it gets worse. But when we ignore our body screaming out for help, when our body shows us these signs and symptoms, and we ignore them, we dismiss them until one day you can't even get out of bed. It's that bad. And if 3 months ago, 2 months ago, you had just paid attention and gone and asked for help, you would not be as bad as you are today. So please get the help that you need. Encourage your loved ones if you're seeing that they're struggling. It could be seasonal affective disorder, it could be anxiety, it could be just even stress. I've said it, like when you start to see changes in their personality or character. There used to be someone, if you text them, they're texting you right back. Just this evening, there's a friend of mine who always used to post on LinkedIn. She used to send out a weekly newsletter and all of that. And I think it was last month I noticed I hadn't been seeing any activity from her. And I forgot to check in. And last week I thought I need to check in. And today I finally remembered. And I sat down, I wrote her an email. I said, hey, I just wanted to check in because I haven't seen you active on LinkedIn. I haven't received your newsletter. She's a businesswoman. Is everything okay? The great news is she's expecting a child, so she stepped back to take care of herself and prepare for the arrival of their baby. And that is wonderful news to hear. But imagine if something else was going on. So be that friend that reaches out. I've noticed this. Is everything okay? Sometimes the reason why people don't ask for help and support is because they don't even know who cares. They don't know who cares. We are so used to, as human beings, saying, so how's it going? Yeah, I'm good. How are you? I'm fine. Like even little babies, they start learning to talk. You ask a kid that's a year and a half old, how are you? They'll say fine. They don't even know what fine means, but it's just an automatic response. But be that friend that says, are you really fine? I noticed this. Are you okay? If you need to talk, if you need support, I'm here. Sometimes people are even afraid to go to the doctor because they don't know what they will hear. Be that friend that will say, I'll go with you, I'll wait in the waiting room. When you get out, I'll be here. Maybe they had to take a series of tests because they've not been well for a while. Go with them, wait in the waiting room. When they come out of that doctor's office, there's somebody there. You can't heal them, you can't change their situation, but you can show them compassion and love. And people experiencing depression need that. I'm not saying more than anybody else, I'm saying they need more of it. Because it can get to a point where they're looking at their life and thinking, no one cares if I was gone or not. And they make that decision to take their life. We know that where there are high rates of seasonal affective disorder, there are high rates of suicide. There actually are. And you're thinking like how can a person kill themselves just because it's winter? Or how can a person kill themselves just because it's hot? Research actually shows in some places, like here in Canada, I'll tell you this, summer sees a an increase in gang violence, in homicides, in police related shootings in the summer. In the summer, it gets really, really bad. Homicide rates go up. Is it because people are unhappy? Is it because people have too much energy? But we see this in the summer. Higher rates of homicide, higher rates of police related shootings, higher rates of violence in the summers. It's the heat. In the winters, we see a spike, and somebody wrote in last week and said, is it because of the season? Like maybe it's the holiday season and people get depressed because it's Christmas, or maybe they're now thinking of their loved ones who are gone around. All of that can contribute to some pretty extreme and dangerous behaviors. So let's pay attention. One, what are our bodies telling us? That little bit of back pain you've been experiencing all the time, you wake up every morning, your back hurts. Yeah, maybe you need a new pillow, maybe you need a new mattress, but maybe you also need to go to the doctor because something's not working as it should. I know, like when you have kidney issues, kidney stones, and stuff like that, you can get back pain. These things are related. So you might just dismiss it, oh, it's just this little bit of back pain, but that back pain might be telling you, like, bud, something's wrong with the kidney. Let's go see the doctor. Chronic headaches, stuff not working in your digestion, and all of that can actually cause headaches. Everything is related. So let's listen to our bodies. Let's pay attention to our bodies. Let's pay attention to our emotions and how are we irritable all the time? Are we annoyed all the time, angry all the time, happy all the time, feel like crying all the time? One of the most Googled phrases is, why do I feel like crying all the time? Why do I feel like crying all the time? You're driving along or you're doing something and you just feel like crying and you don't know why. And you dismiss it because you're like, oh, this is silly, this is stupid. Maybe it's just my. And you brush it aside, but something might be wrong. So pay attention to your physical symptoms, your emotional symptoms, what's happening even in your environment. Look around. If you can't remember the last time you vacuumed or mopped your floor, something's wrong. Your sink is always full of dishes, and you used to be somebody who would not allow that to happen. Something's wrong. And it might not be you, it might be your spouse, your partner, your child, your parent. One of the things a while ago we talked about aging and mental health for older people. One of the first signs of decline for older people is the house starts getting messy. Garbage is not being emptied, plates are not being washed, laundry is not being done. You notice that your father, who's 77, has been wearing the same shirt for a week and a half and it hasn't been washed. You know for a fact that he has 20 shirts in the closet. Why is he only wearing this one? Pay attention. Pay attention to stuff like that. It might be a sign or symptom of something going on mentally or physically. And ask those questions with care, with compassion. I noticed you've been wearing the same shirt. Sometimes it's the way we say it, right? Oh, dad, you've been wearing the same shirt. And immediately they're on the defensive. But if you say, hey, dad, I noticed you've been wearing the same shirt all the time. Let's go find you a new one. And then while you're finding the new one, just ask some questions. Have you been feeling okay? Have you been sleeping okay? What about food? And, like, don't make a person feel ashamed or guilty, because that's what stigma is. When we make people feel ashamed or guilty and then they don't share, they don't seek support, they immediately go on the defensive, they become evasive. You're trying to find they because they feel stigmatized. So if you are in a position to help someone, be gentle, be kind, be compassionate, ask questions without judgment, and let people know that it's okay. It's okay if they're not feeling their best. We put too much expectation on people to be fun and entertaining and energetic and whatever it is we want them to be. And this is some of the reason why people tend to isolate when they're not feeling, when they're feeling depressed or anxious or whatever, because there's this demand on them that they just can't meet. And they don't want to face the consequences of disappointing you. So they isolate. But be that friend, be that partner, whether they're feeling high as a kite, whatever. You can sit quietly with them or you can dance with them, but it's not about you. It's not about your expectations of them. It is about being there for your person. So we talked about stress. Well, we talked about um, suicide, we talked about stress, we talked about anxiety, we talked about depression. Now we've talked about seasonal affective disorder. And as we're going into our holiday season, and this is the season where we're going out to parties and drinking and doing all of this, and it's all good and fun. But what about addiction, right? So next week or next time, I'm not sure if it'll be next week, we'll be talking about addiction, drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, cake, sugar, uh, any type of addiction, right? So send in your messages, send in your questions. infolovebay@gmail.com. If you're emailing, it's infolovebay@gmail.com. If you're texting, it's 437-778-3299. 437-778-3299. And if you live in the Caribbean, in South America, or in Africa, please buy me a ticket. I'm tired of the cold. Take care, Love Bay family. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. Make informed decisions about your mental health. Remember, send in your questions, send in your comments. We'll be looking at addiction for the rest of the year because there are so many things people are addicted to, and so many ways we deny these addictions, so many ways that these addictions impact our lives, our livelihoods, our relationships, our children and offspring, so many things. And we're going to be discussing all of that as we head towards the holiday season. Okay, so 437-778-3299 or infolovebay@gmail.com. Good night.